the thing to understand is you have two purposes when you're out meeting these individuals. You are creating brand awareness, so you become 5 Mile famous, so people just know your business exists, number one. And then number two, yes, ideally we need some percentage of these people to either come in the gym or for you to even get their contact information, which, by the way, this is how businesses like Orange Theory were built.
You can make the most beautiful site in the world. You can make it load fast. You can have a clear, compelling offer. But the guys who have, and gals, of course, who have very clear positioning and understand who they serve and call those people out very clearly do a lot better than people who are trying to target just Gen Pop.
It's all fake news.
Oh, God
it's
damn
phony
it.
stuff. It didn't happen.
Jesus Christ.
Hello and welcome to Gym World Worldwide. I am your host, John Franklin. With me, as always, is the captain, Mateo Lopez. And here with us, our long-lost co-host, our dear friend, our compatriot, with a brand new book to share with the gym world, Mark Fisher of Mark Fisher Fitness. How are you?
I am doing great. And I have to confess, it's kind of more of a pamphlet. I want to be real with you. I want to be real with the listeners. It's more of a pamphlet. It's a good pamphlet, but book is maybe stretching it.
So Mark has a
There it is.
a pamphlet out called The Little Book of Gym Marketing Secrets, a no fluff and comprehensive manual for gym owners who want more leads and more clients. I'm personally giving it a 1-star review. This is what I did. I Control F, and then I wrote Kilo. And there were 0 instances. So I instantly know that this book is FUD and will not deliver on the promise given on the cover. But Mark, make your plea. Why should people buy this thing?
Well, I mean, first of all, that's all true. It's all fake news, but it's good fake news. It's fake news you can use. I think that this book will give, a good, exactly what it promises, a comprehensive, overarching model of all the things you can do to grow a gym. Because I think that we know, for better or worse, there are not an unlimited number of things that you can or you should do to grow your gym. And I don't mean this in a negative way about my beloved book, which I would give much higher than a 1-star review, John. But, I'll concede the thing about this book is, the nature of it being short. You can consider like a high-powered checklist, I think is the way to think about it, right? Because I want to make something you could read in less than 30 minutes to jog your brain and really think holistically about, okay, what are all the things I could be doing? What are the things that I am doing? How do I prioritize them based on this model where you can put the different tools and strategies into buckets? And then what else might I do to, layer into my existing marketing strategies to get some better results? Because I got to tell you, it is something that I have seen, and I bet you two might have seen as well, that sometimes people are missing, entire buckets. They're missing very important systems and tools that now, because of my experience coaching gym owners in Unicorn Society, but maybe most importantly, running a gym in Midtown Manhattan and running another very small gym in Northern New Jersey, I've learned a lot of things, right? And I've learned even for me things over the years, which might be an interesting thing to dig on when I go back to the beginning of MFF and now knowing what I know now, being like, wow, I was also missing huge things. So my hope is I can be a crash test dummy walking in front of you, taking the arrows in my throat and making your life easier and better faster because of the very silly things I either messed up or missed or did wrong in days of yore.
Yeah, I gave it 5 stars because it was very short and I could read it in a very short amount of time. That was a big plus for me. And also there was a lot of stuff in there. I was like, this sounds familiar. This sounds like stuff I've said before. Weird. And then I thought, well, this book's basically about me. And that's why I gave it 5 out of 5 stars.
Hold on
No, I'm not in the book, but I'm not in the book, but you could, anyone reading it would know that it is about me.
I mean, listen,
I'm in between the lines everywhere.
Mateo agrees, which further confirms this book is really amazing. And I think it's true. All of us understand the best way to decide the relative skill or intellect or genius of any author or speaker is to read and ask yourself, do I agree with all of this? And the closer this person is to what you think, the more you can be assured this is an intelligent person. I'm lucky to be in their vicinity. And I agree. And therefore, they are smart. Like me.
Right. That's it.
Okay. Here's how we're going to make this book better right now on this podcast. Right. So Mark, you've coached some gyms. We've coached some gyms. What you learn doing that for a while is that there are gyms out there that are a fucking mess, just an absolute horror show.
Yep.
And when you have a book like this and there are 50 things that you could be doing and they try to implement all of them, nothing ends up getting done, or you get 50 half-assed things. There really isn't a clear priority here. So for the gym owner who's stuck, maybe not doing what they should, maybe not getting the lead flow, what are we tackling first? What are the one or two big things that you really need to nail, and all the other stuff kind of falls into place?
Yep. So yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because all kidding aside, actually, I have been doing some modest digital updates. I've moved along here. And one of the things I think I'm likely to go back and edit in the forward is to really call out more. Do not try to do all of these things. That's the mistake, right? Because that's, I think, a common mistake we see for even very well-intentioned people. Sometimes, unfortunately, the most well-intentioned people is just trying to do all of the things. And I think that is the strength. And yeah, definitely the challenge of this book is it's potentially, for a certain kind of person, going to make you feel like I have to do everything. I have to start a private Facebook group and I have blah, 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 blah. And that's not great. So to answer your question, I do think we probably want to start with the first section of the book. What I think of as the tools, the nouns of marketing. You're going to need a good website. Now, the challenge is I can't think of anybody that does that. So that's the hard part is, yeah. I mean, there might be people out there. I've never met. Okay. So go to Kilo. So yeah, all kidding aside, not a plug, but not a plug. Yeah. Listen, the first thing you do is, if your website doesn't make sense, that's a great example of something that has to come sequentially first, right? Because understand this, there are a lot of things running a gym and even in gym marketing that are like a little tough. They're a little chicken and the eggy. They all got to get done. They feel it's sort of important that they're all there. And if they're not, you're missing a whole. But there are some things that have to happen sequentially. So to give you a very stupid example, okay? So if I send 1,000 leads right now to your website and it doesn't load, and there's not a clear offer, and I don't know who it's for, and I can't find a button to click on, and well, then that means that we're having troubles, right? So if a lot of what people need to grow their business is to get more leads, to take action, to move forward to working with them, you need a place for those leads to go. So I'd say like a website is certainly one thing you want to start with, right? And I will share, this is a true candid testimony here for Kilo. One thing that in general is hard to rely on, that I'm sure you've had people that work with you and want this. I just want to put up my website, and then I just want the leads to just find me. I just want to have more leads, right? And here's the thing that's interesting. Usually, while we do hope that to happen, and there might be some situations where that can happen, in general, you need some more proactive strategies than that to actually drive leads, for people to find out about you, for them to like you, for them to take some action. But I must tell you, friendos, since Kilo did Mark Fisher Fitness's website, we have seen a truly dramatic uptick in the number of unpaid leads that have been opting into our funnel. And I talked with Kilo's CEO, the beloved Khalida, recently about it. We were jamming on it. And, I'm curious if you all have 2 cents about this, and you can feel free to just ruthlessly plug your own services for this. But I imagine, and I really would love your sense on this, I imagine it's a combination of, one, we just got rid of a lot of old stuff on the website that was maybe just didn't need to be there anymore. But 2, we had a site that probably did have a lot of good things going for it, had a lot of backlinks. And then 3, you made the site better in the sense of like it loaded faster. Google had a better sense of what was going on. Because honestly, I can't figure out what else could have happened, right? And it's no secret when we did this, I want to protect both of you emotionally and financially, and say that results may not be typical here. I don't know this is going to be the case. But since we changed over to Kilo's website, we have seen a massive uptick of these unpaid leads. And like, yes, we're doing email marketing, we're doing Instagram, but we were doing a lot of things. This was a particular thing that changed for us in January, and really has changed the number of leads coming in from unpaid sources. So put that in your testimonial video. But I do mean it sincerely. And, I want to talk my book too, but would love, actually, you two are smart. Am I right on this? Is that what happened? What happened?
Well, I think just looking at it right now, and having looked at your prior website many times before, I think, and something that you do mention in your book is one of the important parts about optimizing your website is just like, narrowing down and being clear about what the call to action is and getting rid of things that are distracting. I know there were pop-ups on there before, things that would come down if you were on there for too long. There were other offers to different like things. You have your like ninja thing and your jumpstart and your whatever and this and that. And so in your book, you talk about how important that is for your website. And I think it's emblematic of what we did here, which is like, we made it pretty clear we want to drive people to the free class. That's the main offer. And you talk about creating a compelling offer in your book and how important that is. And then we're pretty clear about like, here are the steps. There's step 1, there's step 2, there's step 3 right on the website. And I think that is all stuff that, while not super revolutionary from like a technical standpoint, I do think that help to get rid of some of the fluff and make it easier for people who do find your website to take action. And to talk about your book again, you laid that out pretty much in that first section. So really, I think what we're seeing here is just a giant circle jerk is really what's happening here of just the minds coming together into one.
Here's something that I didn't think about a lot when I was starting my gyms that I would think about a lot if I was starting another one. And it's something that comes up a lot when I talk with other grizzled veterans in the space who've already received their battle scars. And it's laid out in the gym website section and is definitely something I would prioritize. So we did a whole podcast with your friend and partner, Pete Dupuis, on this, but it is getting really clear on your positioning. So the who you help. We're pushing into the thousands now of sites built. You can make the most beautiful site in the world. You can make it load fast. You can have a clear, compelling offer. But the guys who have, and gals, of course, who have very clear positioning and understand who they serve and call those people out very clearly do a lot better than people who are trying to target just Gen Pop, right? So one of your clients who we've had on the pod, who, I don't think his stuff is particular, like he doesn't even participate on social. This guy, Halen Alpert, he does very, very well for himself. But if you go to his website, it doesn't look revolutionary. If you go to his socials, they look half-baked, but he absolutely crushes it because he's very clear on his positioning. And he focuses on training people 55 and over, and he creates this safe space for them. Another person who you work with that we love, friend of the pod, Cassie Day, has very clear positioning. You go to her website and it's obvious that she wants to serve underserved bodies in fitness, and she skews towards women. And then with yours, Mark, it's very clear that you target people who don't like going to the gym, maybe people who didn't feel comfortable in a sports setting growing up. And you look through that and it's very obvious that you are the home for that. And so while we can sit here and talk about the technical elements and making it load faster and getting backlinks, the reality is I haven't spoken with a lot of gyms that are absolute horror shows in terms of their operations that didn't have very poor positioning to begin with. And so that may be a step one if you're someone who is struggling, is you may just want to start talking to less people.
Yeah, it's true. And it's interesting because I'm taking a lot of people through a marketing sprint right now. And it has been very interesting and a good experience for me because, candidly, I don't do it a lot of client facing work with Unicorn Site. I do a lot of the models, but I wanted to do this because I wanted to get in and get my fingers dirty. And I feel like I've learned some new things and I have some new distinctions. And I love this crew. I think they're doing awesome work. And for me, the thing that's been a good reminder is like, oh yeah, I forget how easy it is as a gym owner to prioritize the stuff that you care about, right? And because there's a couple pieces to this. I mean, certainly there's the making the call out specific enough. And listen, we're a geographically constrained business, right? So it's probably not going to be, I help C-level men between the ages of 37 and 42 that make over 175,000 a year and are now divorced, who used to be athlete, blah, blah, blah. Like, But in general, that's not really the issue we see for a lot of these gyms. I just want to say out loud, you probably could go too far. Most of you are going to wind out either with like an age call out, maybe a gender, maybe busy professionals, maybe busy parents, maybe you talk about a specific neighborhood. And then importantly, when you get to this next piece, the outcomes that you help them create. Another thing that has been very interesting too is if you have someone drilled down in their avatar, and you really make them get clear on, okay, what are the benefits that the person you're most driven to serve? What are the things that they want? What are their dreams? What are the words they use in their head to describe those things? They can do a pretty good job, but then it's interesting how very often none of those words will make it into the headline, right? Because if they take time to really think about it and write a full paragraph and, try to, as Robert Collier would say, enter the conversation going in the prospect's minds, they can do it. But then oftentimes when we get to the headline itself, it's just a little bit for my taste general. And I think now is as good a time as any to acknowledge all of this is a little bit subjective. Marketing is another word for test. If you're happy with the results, listen, who am I? Keep doing what you're doing. But I tend to bias towards headlines that really call out what are the actual benefits they want and the words that they're using, right? Because oftentimes I find fitness coaches, trainers, gym owners will land in a place where the benefit promise for my taste is just like a little bit too broad. It's a little bit too general. Like one I often see is like lasting fitness results. I don't know it's wrong, or like sustainable fitness. Now, listen, I'm not here to tell you that's wrong per se. And I think to make this more confusing, if you are to interview your clients that are already drinking your Kool-Aid, they might even reflect back to you a lot of the words that you're saying because they've been steeped in the words that you're using and what the internal culture of your gym promotes. But in practice, a lot of people that are looking to work for gym are looking for things like maybe it's get strong, get confident. It's often lose fat, build muscle, right? Something that's almost so obvious that I think sometimes the gym owner, you feel that, well, we're about something more inspiring. We're about, transforming and changing lives. And that's cool. I want you to do that. That's a big swing, and understand the benefits people are looking for, I think are often both simpler and more specific than you might think. And if you're marrying together a specific kind of person and a specific result they achieve, and then a crystal clear call to action to do this next obvious thing, I think you'll see a lot better conversion for your website. And further, might I add that framework will be useful in your email marketing. It'll be useful in your social media posts. Even your Instagram profile is essentially an alternative website where you're going to want to mirror a very similar set of headlines and a very similar call to action. So you're still capturing the same people by calling them out. Here's what you need. Here's what to do.
So, yeah, I wanted to ask you about this because this is later on in your book in the newsletter section that you just mentioned. But because you hear marketers say this all the time, use the words that your audience uses, like speak the language they speak. Do you have any examples of some of the clients you've worked with that are in different niches than you or that serve a different audience that have like successfully done that? Like what's an example or how do you go about like doing that? Of like using their words in your newsletter or your website copy?
Yeah. It's a great question because, to be clear, I'm not necessarily suggesting, even though we are talking about the importance of having a specific audience, when you're dealing with Gen Pop, it's not an unlimited number of things, right? And if you and I wanted to go through the list right now, the three of us could probably figure out there's only really going to be maybe 12 things, like maybe 15 things. Now, admittedly, it gets a little bit more complicated if you're doing something like sports performance, right? Or if you have a very specific special population, sometimes they are going to have a different bucket of words. But when you're dealing with general population individuals, if you start about, okay, what is the actual benefit before we even get to what are the words that they use, the benefits are invariably going to be things like lose fat, have more energy, feel confident, improved focus, better mood, more strength, more vitality, right? So there's not like an unlimited number of benefits. So, interestingly enough, and I'd be curious for you guys to beat up on this idea with me, even though, I just said, enter the words going on in their head, I'm not sure actually that's going to vary that wildly from a lot of these individuals, particularly because we don't have, particularly in the headline, we don't have an unlimited number of words to really paint a picture. We only got like a few words, right? Because if it's like one sentence. So usually it's going to be like lose weight, feel confident, get strong, perform your best, feel like you're in your 20s, feel like you're you again, feel like you're in your 20s or again, like something along those lines. It's usually going to live in that. I think in longer form copy, you probably have a little bit more room to really play with the pain points. And another thing that is often said, and it's kind of trite, but is true, that one of the things, maybe perversely, that establishes credibility is to be able to describe your client's problems in crystal clear way, to really call out the problem you're facing is this. It's frustrating to feel like ... And you find that this experience happened to you. It's very frustrating. And then you transition. And if we're doing like 1970s copywriter tricks, usually it's like, imagine. That's where it's always in there. When you transition from the pain points to the benefits, imagine. And then you start talking about their wants and their dreams. So for the headline itself, I would probably lean towards not actually getting overly fancy. I know that's not what you're suggesting per se. But frankly, even if I'm thinking through like the email copy for most Gen Pop people, it's probably going to be that. If anything, you're probably going to vote some things off the island, depending on your preferred avatar, your market, your values. There are some things, for instance, there are certain cultures where people can actually be quite confronted by even discussing something like weight loss or fat loss, right? Probably a lot of gym owners, trainers listening, probably for reasons I can understand, might be saying, look, I don't even want to be part of a conversation around saying that's something you should even think about. And listen, there's a lot of people have a lot of strong opinions about what that is or that isn't. And I'm staying out of it. I'm just saying you probably want to make a decision, and there's probably not an unlimited number of benefits that a Gen Pop person is going for. And you just want to use the actual benefits, not our trainery words that we kind of coin or the things that we want, right? Again, I'm not saying no client ever comes to you and says, I want sustainable fitness. I just don't know that before bed, they're like, oh, if only I could have sustainable fitness, right? And I think that's less likely to really trigger them, in a positive way, to take action based on seeing a specific benefit in a headline.
If you guys want an example at home, I think Jeff Shoemaker, Devin Gage do a good job of targeting Gen Pop with their copy. You can just copy theirs. Here, I'll pull it up so you guys can read it. We help people over 40 lose weight with pain-free workouts. Yep. So that you can see results faster than ever before, guaranteed. So again, the same word salad, but they're hitting on they stand for something with the little pain-free thing. And what is pain-free? Mm-hmm. You're like, what does that mean? And then the next thing is like, we just don't run, we don't sprint, we don't do burpees, and we don't do snatches.
Yep. No extreme workouts.
There's some headlines like, we're the only gym for beginners and people over 40. So, it's good positioning. If you want to take the other side, that'd probably be good too. It's like, we only do extreme. You come here to fart blood, and that totally will have a, just don't be somewhere in the middle. Yeah,
I think that's precisely it, right? Because another little model you can use is how to yay without boo, right? How to create this particular positive benefit without, that's a hat tip to Taki Moore, who I think we all know and love, how to create this cool benefit without this thing that you don't like.
Hey gym owners, are you looking for a way to generate more leads, close more sales, and increase client retention? Introducing Kilo. We are a software company that gives gym owners the tools they need to increase revenue and run a successful gym. With Kilo, you get a beautifully designed website to capture more leads, an integrated marketing automation platform to increase sales, and our gym management software so you can add new client memberships, process payments, and organize your class schedule. If you're ready to upgrade your gym management software, book a call at usekilo.com.
All right. So once you got that dialed down, you know who you serve. You've written something that is clear and makes sense with what their desire is. The next thing that most people need to nail down is having a clear front end offer. Now, what we like and what you like change. I'm kind of coming around to your way. You've seen merits in ours. Let's talk about
what come around to yours.
There's no one right way to do it.
I know it. We're all in a hall.
So let's talk about what you recommend for most of the gyms that you work with.
Yep. So if I have to just say do this, speaking of vacuum, I'm going with 14 days of unlimited training for $99. That's the thing that you sell. But on the actual website, the first thing I'm going to have you do is probably book a free intro, because the first thing we're going to do is get on a quick phone call. So I like book a free intro. You can say, talk to a trainer. You can say, talk to the owner, our pals of the fort. I believe there's some verbiage around that. When you go to their landing page, it's like, talk to one of the owners, right? There's something about that I think makes it easy, because people do like free. Now, you're not ultimately selling a free thing, but you're making it crystal clear. Here's the first thing you do. Everybody does this. And if anything, one evolution of my own thinking around this, which feels like I'm sure years more to go this, but like every year, just about like less simpler, right? Is book a free intro, get them on a call, and then you sell the next thing. And when I say sell, it's in quotes, right? Because based on your model, based on how much volume you want, based on how much capacity you have, the next thing might be come in and try a free workout. It might be a mid-ticket, maybe a $499 to $799 plus 6-week transformation challenge. At a high level, the way I think about your two options are you have a low barrier offer where they're going to try some workouts, and you have a defined endpoint program where they're signing up for a more substantive experience because they really want a specific promise, a specific outcome that you can taste and touch and point to. I tend to, and I'd be, love to hear your guys' points on this. I have tended to lean towards the come try workouts because one, it's something that probably a larger percentage of people want, though admittedly it's not as valuable if you have the proverbial bleeding neck. And two, it's just a little bit easier to sell, right? It requires a little less acumen to move somebody from a relatively cold lead into one of those offers, particularly if you're not doing the free 6-week, but pay your deposit, which by the way, also, I don't judge. People get very mad about that one. And I get it. Like, I really understand the logic. It's kind of brilliant in its way. Obviously, it's not something I personally do. And I think there is, potentially some long-term brand cost if you go with that approach. But if you think about mechanically why the free 6-week offer did so well for as long as it did, is you're kind of getting both, right? You're getting a really powerful promise you can teach and touch and point to, but you're also getting the super low barrier of like quote unquote free, right? Even though eventually, obviously, you do sell the person into making the deposit, but you can make a good case. Look, you're going to get the money back anyway, as long as you do the things. So, but yes, these days, I vacuum, I don't know you, book them in a free intro, get them on a 10-minute call, sell them for a $99 unlimited training, tell them do whatever it is you do, have them do 2, 3, whatever. And then importantly, you'll need some sort of system. I prefer get them then into a more proper 30 to 60-minute strategy session, no sweat intro, starting point session, pick your euphemism, some sort of consultative sales conversation where now you can really peel the onion, get clear on the emotional underlying reason, and then direct them to do the next thing that you'll need to do for the long term to get results after just trying your workouts.
Well, this is the part where I'm a little, and I think it is a little clear in the book. So I just want to clarify here for the listeners. If it's a low barrier offer, are we getting the credit card over the phone, or are we still bringing them in before even if it's a cheaper, like, $99, $79, whatever it is? Are we selling over the phone if we can, or are we still bringing them in and then selling them? What's the flow? Again,
I think it depends on your model, but I would prefer you get the credit card on the phone and do the transaction on the phone. Again, for my taste, I don't think a $99 offer is going to be that hard to close on the phone, particularly if you're combining with a money back guarantee. Having said that, if you wanted, you could also bolt on the very first thing you do is come in for a more proper strategy session. And then we'll take care of it then if you want to move forward with the 2-week. And that's an opportunity to maybe future pace them into whatever membership they'll do after it. You could argue that's a little bit of an easier sell, but it also is going to lead to more of a no-show rate. It's going to maybe be a little bit of a clunkier setup. But yeah, I get it. If you don't feel comfortable getting the credit card on the phone, that could be a barrier. But mostly I'm going to say get comfortable getting the credit card on the phone. It shouldn't be that hard to do.
Here's what I'll say in the front end. You have clout, and your buddy Pete also has clout in the Perform Better community. You guys identify it as part of the, what do you call yourself? The scientific based,
evidence-based
exercise trainer people, the evidence. Yeah. So you got some real training nerds in your group. You got some people who know a lot about training, probably have spent 5 to 10 years on the floor working at a very serious training gym. And so this low barrier 2-week under $100 thing works exceptionally well when you have an exceptionally good service. I will say, if you are a more inexperienced gym owner and you have the foresight to realize that you may not have the best experience or the best gym, I probably would steer away from a low barrier offer and try and sell something a little higher to get more challenge based, because if you have a bad service, the low barrier offer just allows them to find out faster and you're collecting less revenue.
Yeah.
The other two things where I'm not Go ahead.
That's a hilarious point. We'll come back to that in a minute, but yes, point taken.
And the other two things where this probably isn't appropriate is if you are going super high end. So you offer personal training and you're the place to go for results. You want to charge an obnoxiously high price for that front end if you've managed to carve out that niche for yourself. And the second thing is CrossFit gyms tend to struggle with low barrier offers like this because you have to spend so much time on the front end teaching the barbell movements and how class works and indoctrination that you're going to lose money on that 2-week front, especially since it's such a polarizing workout methodology where, for half the people there, it's going to change their life. They're never going to leave, but the other half, they're going to be turned off immediately. You probably want to avoid doing something like this unless you have a very dialed in on-ramp process that you can deliver at a low price point.
I will say that we mentioned all great points. We mentioned the guys at the Fort, Dan Trank and Kyle Fields. They do kind of both, where they do what they call a trial. They call it a trial, and it's a 2-week trial, but they're really not charging any less than they normally do for those 2 weeks. It's maybe like, I think he said some kind of like a 10% discount or something to that effect, or maybe when they
he said it was the price. It was just the commitment.
Yeah,
so it's the same price, but
yeah.
you don't have to make a big commitment.
But they still call it a trial, which I think is it's a smart way of offering a trial, but still charging full price, which I think is great. Which you can also do.
Totally. I mean, I think that the model that you're sort of thinking through, and I think these are all reflective of the different ways you can land on this, is to be very reductive. If you want more volume, make it very low, right? Make it cheap and or free, and it's not a big, long time commitment. If you want arguably more qualified leads and more money up front, make it more expensive, right? And not to be underappreciated here, the advantage of a mid-ticket or even a full high ticket offer is you can also spend a lot more effort and energy and time really onboarding people, right? I think another front end offer, which I know is popular in a lot of spaces, which I would put in the mid ticket bucket crudely, is a PT first model, right? Which can work really great if you happen to have a model that is technically intensive. You're really getting somebody on board. And the other advantage that the mid or high ticket or PT first has over the low barrier offer is not only, listen, maybe you're going to have a smaller number of leads, maybe you need to sell better outside the front, but you're going to spend less time with them because it's like less humans. Number one, that's good. And number two, you could theoretically bump up into, Mr. Hormozi's client finance acquisition model where you're making actually decent money off of this. So instead of this being what in business world you'd call a loss leader, where you're expecting to take a hit because some percentage of these people are going to move forward, you're just going to let them try a little bite and hope they get addicted on the sweet, sweet loving of your gym. You're saying, okay, no, I'm going to actually make money on the first thing. And that's going to augur me a slightly more qualified client who's going to be less price sensitive, who's, when people pay, they pay attention, which drives me out of my mind because it's true. So you're going to have them probably more compliant. They're a little more all in. And this is also true. The low barrier offer, the downside also is honestly, you're not getting results a lot of times. Right? Like it's good if you're like, oh, I want to try workouts, but like in 2 weeks, I mean, listen, maybe you'll feel a little bit better, but you kind of need 4, you kind of need 6 weeks if the person really wants to start to see the results. And I think we all know long-term to make it sticky, listen, there's a certain type of person that, they're happy to have their workouts. They're happy to see their friends. But I think what most of us are interested in as fitness professionals, and what also serves the business, is getting some system where people are actually getting some kind of trackable results that map to what they care about.
So I had another question. I know we're still talking about the offer, but now that let's say we get them on the phone, right? And we're trying to sell them. One of my favorite quotes from your book is, "Sell the smile, not the braces." Mark, what does that mean?
Yeah. So this is a good thing to know, as particularly if you're a trainer and you love your training and you're very interested in the process. This is your reminder that your clients probably don't really
evidence-based guys.
Yeah. And I get it. Like, you love it and you should love it, right? We need you to love it. It's going to help you be good. But the client, for the most part, doesn't care about the process. They just care about what they care about, right? So to the extent that you're building value for what you're doing, if you mention a feature, it's only because it's going to create a certain benefit. So you don't need to get into the weeds about the training methodology. You don't need to get in the weeds about the type of equipment you have. You don't get, for the most part, you're not going to get in the weeds about like your amenities. Even some things that are useful for some people are not useful for others. So let's appreciate another version of this thought is only talk about what they care about. So if somebody didn't mention to you that, oh, my schedule is really challenging, I really need flexibility, we don't need to have 3 to 5 sentences while they're zoning out about, and we have a wide array of schedules. There's classes at all different times. And if you need to cancel, we have a very generous, certainly compared to industry standard, like nobody cares, right? But I think the overarching point here is talk about the outcome that they want, the benefit. Don't worry, particularly in the first call, like they don't care yet. You'll teach them that later. Paint the picture of the smile. Right. Or the other metaphor you hear is paint the picture of them on the beach, on the vacation, drinking the Mai Tai with the sand between their toes and the salty sea air blowing their hair back. Don't sell them the mechanics of there's you're going to be on a flight and then it's going to be in a little row and it's going to take about this long and there might be some turbulence. Like nobody cares. Sell the vacation, not the flight. Sell the smile, not the braces.
If I may, I have just a little anecdote related to this.
Okay.
I think somewhat related to this. Part of that too, if you get in the weeds, either on the phone or in the sales process, you may uncover accidentally some objections for your prospect that they didn't even think about when you're going through the process and the mechanics of how everything works and like the magic of your training methodology and all that stuff. So when I was in college, my freshman year, I was getting recruited for this fraternity, and one of the guys that was trying to get me to rush was like talking to me about it, and I was having a good time and whatever. And then he said, "Yeah, I mean, like some people say joining a fraternity is like buying friends, but it's really not." And he was explaining this. I was like, "Wait, I didn't even think no one has said that to me, but now I'm thinking about that. I didn't think that until you just said it." So that doesn't sound great. So, that may happen if you're explaining, oh, don't worry. Like before you're
the probably barbell, we're going to use a
PVC
hurt.
Pipe first.
Yeah,
exactly.
You're probably shaking your boot about the very risky thing you're about to do.
Everyone who walks through this door.
Yes. So I know a lot of people saying CrossFit, it's dangerous, but it's like, well, no one's, I'm interested in CrossFit, but now I didn't know people were saying that. So, anyway, just a little aside there, but yeah, don't get so caught up in the process. To what Mark said, sell the destination.
All right. We talked about the site and we talked about the front end offer. I think that's the piping. I think the third piece, the third piece of pipe that is important that every gym owner should have done and revisit every couple of years is having a fresh set of really good looking photos, which is something that we, as building a bunch of websites, is something we struggle with because a lot of people want to use their gym, their smiling faces, their people, but it looks
which don't
awful.
Always convert as well. Yeah.
And it's not that their gym's awful. It's just the photographs aren't good. And if you look at any of the gyms who are stratospherically successful that we talk to on this show, you go to their website, you go to their Instagram, there's a very clear brand story. So the colors on the site match the colors painted on the wall in the gym, match the colors of the Instagram, matches the font, matches all that stuff. And there are people who, you got a guy like the Metabolic Founders who probably spent months geeking out over this stuff. But in reality, you can, if you're just the average gym owner, I don't care about branding, like you can go on, you can hire someone on Upwork to help you think through this, or you can hire Kilo because we just do this for you and give you brand identity that you can run with. And then you just got to go get a nice set of photos lit well with some good looking members that look like the avatar you want to serve smiling. So easy to do, such a one-time thing, just takes a little forethought, and it will set you apart from like 90% of the gyms out there that just take a photo on their iPhone of an empty class with one person kind of smiling. And so we'll call those three things the actual like plumbing. So once you got that all dialed down, now you're ready for some leads, Mark. And you run BFU, you run Mark Fisher Fitness, both big businesses with resources to staff people on various channels and do all this other stuff. And even that's very complicated. Like in our business, it's tough and we have money to throw at this. you are in a position where you are growing a much smaller gym in a smaller town. And so you are severely under-resourced compared to some of your other businesses. If we're just picking one thing to do to get some leads on the cheap, Mark, what are we doing?
My absolute favorite, which you're going to resist against, and I'll unpack why you resist. Go meet strangers. Go meet strangers. And I'll make it even. I'll give you a little bit more help to do this, right? Because you start then you're like, what do I do? What do I say? What do I say? Okay. Create some physical thing you're going to give them, a business card or flyer, postcard, have a contact information, a QR code, and some offer here. I think a low barrier offer is best here, right? Which, we'll leave that aside for now because that may or may not work for your model. But if you can do like a 2 free class, which can work for a lot of things, because even if you start with a strategy session, a sales conversation, the thing is these people are relatively cold. But the thing to understand is you have 2 purposes when you're out meeting these individuals. You are creating brand awareness, so you become 5 Mile famous, so people just know your business exists, number 1. And then number 2, yes, ideally we need some percentage of these people to either come in the gym or for you to even get their contact information, which, by the way, this is how businesses like Orange Theory were built. You go into the parking lot of the Target, you give away free classes, and they're the standards you absolutely get the contact information, right? So I'm a nice mommy. I'm a nice mommy. I'll let you give away a business card, but really what you should be doing and what the most successful gym brands do is they get the contact information so they can follow up. So you got to go.
John, you don't read the book. You got to obliterate obscurity.
Obliterate obscurity.
Obliterate obscurity.
You got to obliterate obscurity. So
I control F kilo in my name and your name, and then just put it away.
Oh, we got to do obliterate obscurity next.
Obliterate obscurity.
So here's a good one for this. And someone who shaped my thinking on this is our mutual pal, John Goodman. And I stole this straight out of one of his books. And so he says when he works with online people, which is a different rat's nest altogether. But when someone comes up to him and is like, I'm posting on Instagram and blogging and doing all these things and it's not working for me, he just asks him, well, how many people have you talked to today? And the answer more often than not is 0. And so that is the source of the problem. So what he recommends doing, he says paper clips, but I have pens. So you take 5 pens, you put them on one side of your desk, and every time you talk to somebody new about your gym, you take one of those pens, put it on the other side of the desk, and every day the 5 pens need to go from the one side to the other. And if you do that for 3 months straight, I'm guessing you will have less of a lead problem than you did when you start. So to Mark's point, ground and pound.
Ground and pound, baby.
So people will do literally anything to avoid talking to random people about their business, which is the exact thing they should be doing. That's usually a sign that is the one thing. So we did another show before this, Mark, with a young enterprising gym owner from Red Bank, New Jersey, who is literally breaking every rule in the book. Anything in your book, he's doing the opposite of it. And he's training, I think he said like 600 members out of 1,900 square feet. And so we're like, what do you do? And he's just
doing this part.
There.
He's doing this part of the book for sure.
He coaches. He works sports performance. He took a job at the local high school for free, so he can just go talk to all the athletes out there. So he coaches at the high school for free, and that's his lead source. He bought into a smoothie place because that's where all the kids hang out after. And so he goes to the smoothie place and he gets them over into his gym. And he just talks to people, and he's got packed out classes despite making a ton of young gym owner mistakes. And that's the only thing he does. He's like, once I hit a certain milestone, I'm going to figure out how to do the email stuff. And he was doing like 60 grand a month out of a 1,900 square foot space with a 3-year-old gym.
Here's part of why I'm so passionate about this, because I didn't do this for MFF. So I have a few go-to strategies. If I start working with an established gym, and that's a big bucket. If it's in your established gym, then usually you have existing assets. You have former clients, you have unconverted leads, you have, if you know a lot of people, maybe have a lot of personal relationships. And also if you've got some modicum of clients, referrals can work because you have some clients, and all of those are numbers games. Okay, well, here's the thing. If you just open up your gym, you don't have former clients, you don't have any unconverted leads, you don't know a lot of people, right? Maybe you're shy, you're in a small town, you diligently go through your email contact and cell phone, and you only come up with 120 people. Well, and you only have a handful of clients. Obviously, they can't drive you tons of referrals. Well, then how do you get more leads? Well, there's kind of two ways, right? You can certainly do paid digital, which can still work well in a lot of markets, but it's going to cost money and it's going to cost a lot of effort to do the follow-up. The only other thing you can do is go meet strangers in person. And full disclosure is MFF, I never did this. The reason being because when MFF was founded, I knew a couple thousand people. The year before MFF opened, I had trained personally well over 130 people. So I hammered that first asset. And then the product was so good. And we did have an offer. It wasn't particularly easy to get started, but I think we had a referral offer and people were dragging their friends in by their hair. So that's why that business blew up so quickly. But because of it, I never needed to go into the streets and meet people. And now, to my defense, Midtown Manhattan is not the best market to do it, right? I can't go to the Target nearby and assume those are all local people. So it's not as easy for me. And while business partnerships, I think, can be very powerful because that's a version of meet strangers in person at scale, that tends to be a longer tail game. If you are like, look, I'm going to lose my house. I can't afford paid digital. I don't know anybody. I only have 5 clients. You go into the parking lot of the grocery store with your cards and you talk to people and you can operationalize it however you want. But yeah, like a good rule of thumb is meet 5 people per day. Do that every day. Listen, do the math. That's 25 people per week. 25 people times 50. That's a lot. That is a lot of people over a year. That's going to change your business, particularly if you're in a smaller market. You don't have an unlimited number of people that even live within that vicinity. People are going to start to know you. So I love this Red Man guy. I think that's amazing. Because also you don't even need to do the other things. All the other things are things that at some point, listen, is it helpful for mature Jim to do it to supplement that? Yeah. But this is just a numbers game of volume. If you're just meeting enough strangers, and understand what I'm saying, I'm not like really saying this, but you could probably even get away with a crappy website. I don't think you should hire Kilo. But if it came down to it, if you're just meeting people and getting contact information and following up, you can really build a meaningful business off of this. And then just, it sounds like this guy's doing, you can build a plane in the air, but it's hard to build a plane in the air when you don't have any lead flow.
So in this section of your book, you said, go to the grocery store, go to the coffee shops, buy them coffee and give them your business card. You'll want to use social intuition about when and how you do this. John, Mark, what if I don't have social intuition? Or what if I don't even know that I don't have it?
Yeah.
What then?
I think just try. You'll
I've known some pretty nerdy trainers in my day.
I mean, listen, you can read How to Win Friends. That will help. But honestly, I really think this is just getting the reps in and understand. Not only did I make my living when I first moved to New York, stopping women on the street to give me money and give me their credit card number to sell them hair salon promotions, but I just did this with the Alloy team recently. So I've experience of this. And yeah, there are some things that they're hard because if I give you all the things, it just gets too unwieldy. You're like, this is just like a lot. But you figure out very quickly in New Jersey, when the person's getting out of the car of the stopping shop, don't run at them. They don't like it. They might have a gun. You might get shanked. Conversely, while you do want to be chill and you want to have a certain laid back demeanor, if you're not moving around the parking lot and no one is near you and you just spend an hour sitting in silence, not talking to anyone, also not great, right? So that's the kind of thing that I think it's hard to understand until you just go out there and do it. So if we really want to say like, okay, let's make this as simple, you kind of get back to, yes, is it good to have a script? Sure. Is it nice if you can lubricate it, goes with coffee? Yeah, there's tricks. The main thing, just go talk to people because you'll figure out the rest of those things. Whereas you can have all the theory, you can have all the scripts, but unless you go out there and do it, then you just never learn. You never really figure it out. And I do think most people can figure this out, even without great social intuition. At a certain point, if you just keep doing it over and over, even if you're willfully trying to disregard what you're learning, you're going to start to see some patterns being like, oh, when I run to the person, when I get out of their car as fast as I can, they seem troubled by this. Maybe I'll try a different strategy.
All right. I'll give you a recent story and we can role play or you can lead our listeners to money. So there's a post that we instruct Two Brain Gyms to do that consistently generates leads. Every time someone makes this post, they get people raising their hands saying, hey, I want to learn more about the gym. So we were at the Two Brain Summit, had 1,000 gym owners there. One of the speakers told people to make the post at the summit. And people actually did it. And then 30 minutes later, people are rushing the Two Brain booth where I was hanging out, and they're like, someone responded.
Yeah.
Now what do I do? And they had no clue what to do when someone said, hey, I actually want to learn more about the gym. And you've taught Sell by Chat. I've seen you teach Sell by Chat before. And this is something that happens in your community a lot, where you get these people to agree because they did the simple stuff. They followed the playbook. Then someone actually raised their hand, and then the gym owner seizes up. What do you do when someone wants to learn more and give you money? How do you get that money for yourself?
Yeah, get them on a phone call. You loop them right back into the book a free intro. You get them on a phone call in most situations. And this is assuming somebody has explicitly said, hey, you made an offer to learn more about working with you. Well, what's great is now it's the same thing you would do any other time. It's like, great, are you free to hop on the call right now? Okay, if not, great. What about this time or this time? Because I would note Sell by Chat is essentially just an organic digital version of Ground in the Pavement, right? It's the same kind of idea where you're meeting strangers that have found you through Instagram, and then you're just starting conversations, right? I think you were the first person I heard say this. It's so true. Conversations equal conversions. So in a perfect world, this is also the benefit of having a clear system that everything feeds into. Because in my world, what I prefer is the first thing is always a book a free intro. It's always a 10-minute call. And it could be a formal book a free intro on the website. Or if somebody raises their hand for an Instagram post and you're like, hey, you want to hop on the phone real quick, talk a little more about what you're looking to do and see if I can help. Like that for as far as I'm concerned, that's the move. That'll do it.
It's also if you have a simple offer. So if we have that front end offer and everyone goes through that offer, it's the same flow. You just put a different wrapper on it. So our buddy Jack Wheeler runs 6-week challenges, and he's been looking for 10 Red Deer women for the last 10 years, and has probably run like 2,500 women through the program.
Yes.
And he just changes the wrapper. So, it's slim for the chimney, then it's New Year, New You, then it's Valentine's Day, and then it's, but it's the same offer. So it's the same call. It's the same sales process. He just changes the marketing wrapper. So then when you meet someone, you can say, hey, I'm doing this challenge this month. It starts in a week.
Yes.
Like, come on in, or who wants to hear about this challenge that starts next week? I need 5 more people. Someone responds, and then it's the exact same sales process that you run all year, but you're just changing the wrapper over and over and over again. And it gives you some of that sales confidence, because one of the mistakes that Matteo and I made, and this was all my fault, was that we would constantly switch up the front end offer or try and do a new thing, and we'd retool the offer. And so we'd have to change the pricing and the delivery. And the smart guys, the rich guys, the people who are doing 2 million plus from a single location, you buy the thing. Maybe they change the name of it a few times a year, but the process is the same over and over and over, no matter what stream you're coming in from.
And maybe once in a while, listen, I mean, there's something to be said for testing, but on balance, it's almost always a bad idea. Like on balance. And it's true. Like, I think about my pals, like the most successful people I know, there are gym owners that are killing it, listeners, that have been doing the same offer for over 10 years. And in some markets, they don't even change the name. Now, I will say that there's some wisdom in changing the name, because then you're getting the best of all worlds. You're beating the blindness if I'm seeing the same messaging. But operationally, your life is simple, because it's always the same play over and over. The other thing that I think is important to understand about why I'm looking for 5 humans for this specific outcome and such, we start next week, is you're getting urgency and scarcity. Because admittedly, one thing that I do think, is a more advanced thing, but you do need an evergreen offer that people know what to do. And ideally, it's always the same thing, and it's operationally simple, and it's a well-oiled machine. But there's something to be said for finding ways to use the same offer and make it urgent and scarce. So that's what's so powerful about I'm looking for 5 people. You're not even saying, by the way, I only have 5 spots, might I add, right? But there's something that's implied and say, I'm looking for 5 people for this specific outcome in this specific amount of time. We get started X week. It's urgent. You're not saying that you're not also starting it a couple weeks after that, right? And listen, I think a lot about ethics of marketing. I don't think this is unethical at all. Right? Like I don't think there's anything unethical about this. I think this is smart, and I think you should do it.
So while we're on this topic, Mark, from your book, what is the single most neglected sales and marketing tool?
Are you quizzing me? Did I say something in there? Now you're going to quiz me and be like, you didn't even know your own book.
Well, we're talking about conversations and it's follow-up systems
Yes, it's
is the
follow-up.
answer.
Yeah, it's follow-up. Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
of
just
course.
wanted you to riff
Yes.
on that.
Yeah.
While we're on this topic of conversations and following up, why do people not follow up, Mark?
Well, the thing that really does help with follow-up is if someone could just make some kind of like automations or some sort of, I don't know, technological software system that could help with it, but there's just they don't exist. I don't know anybody who does that. So I guess I don't have anything else to say about that. I'm just kidding. You should hire Kilo. You should use Gym Lead Machine. All kidding aside, and all plugging aside, although this is a plug for Kilo, following up is the thing that most people don't do because most people don't want to be annoying. But in practice, if the first 14 days, to my mind, someone is a freshie, and I'd say the first 2 days are the most important, and the first 5 minutes to 2 hours are the most important of that. So you want to hit people with maybe 15 to 20 touches over 14 days. You want to use some combination of calls, texts, emails. I thought a lot about this. I don't think there's any particularly magic formula for even what you say or what frequency of what channels. I think the key thing is hit them 20 to 30 times in the first 14 days, really front load the first day or two. And if you have any sort of volume, you're going to have to get out of spreadsheets quickly. And again, I know there's different situations of people listening. If you can find a way, if you have a very simple website and you're just driving them to a call and you get an opt-in and maybe it's, I don't know what you would do in 2024. I guess you zap them to a Google Sheet, maybe, just get Gym Lead Machine, They'll build the follow-ups for you. They'll make it streamlined. So you have an easy pipeline. So every day you come up and you can press the button, you can visually see what stage of what opportunities people are in. And then you just have to follow up a lot, particularly if you're messing with paid digital. And at a certain point, you should mess with paid digital. I think even in the year 2024, it is an important tool. And this is highly market dependent, right? In some markets, like New York City, paid digital, it's like trying to pet a deer. Right. I'm going up to the deer, but the deer are terrified. Some of you are in smaller markets, and it's much more like when the marauding humans came to Australia to slaughter all the large animals, right? The humans going to Australia, some of you lucky people with your $10 leads and your 35% throughput, God love you in your market because you go up and all the big animals, the woolly mammoths or whatever in Australia are like, look at this adorable, this is a naked monkey standing on its legs. This is incredible. So you have the ability to, really wreak havoc and slaughter the entire animal ecosystem. But for most of you, that's not going to be the case. And it doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means you have to follow up. Further, even if you have someone come in that's relatively more qualified, well, gosh, that's all the more reason to follow up with them sufficiently. Because remember, you're not annoying them. They'll just tell you no. If they don't want to hear from you, they'll tell you no if they don't want to hear from you. They gave you their name and number and phone, their name, number, and email set on the path to doing whatever the first thing was. It's not like you bought their name off a cold list. If you did, then yeah, you should feel weird about that. That's not cool. But they've expressed interest. Follow up with them forever. But certainly the first 14 days, that's where the ball often gets dropped. And you just have to update your expectations in 2024. It's not 2017. You're going to have to work a lot harder. It's going to be more expensive and you're going to get less overall results. But if you scale it with a gym software platform like Gym Lead Machine, it's not going to be that hard. And even a busy gym owner can make it fit in their schedule. And if you want to sell, like this is what you're going to have to do.
Listener, I'll give you another implementation tip that I've learned the expensive way that will let you get a little more out of Mark's book. So there's 50 things in here. There's a bunch of good ideas. Some of it is going to work for you. So if you start doing these things, you're going to find something that's going to get you some leads. Now, stupid gym owner John in 2014 would do one of those things, be like, awesome, we did the thing, it worked. Let's try some other things because then we're going to get even more.
Yeah.
Now
you're really, by the way, making it, I'm literally going to rewrite my forward after this podcast. So thank you for that. Keep going. You have good. Keep going. This is an important point. Right. Listen carefully, children.
Kilo,
Listen carefully.
Be sure to. I'm going to Control F, and then I'll change my review on Amazon. So, one of the things that a more grizzled veteran, some of the more successful people we talk to do, is when they find something that works, they just keep doing that thing, right? So, if you send out an email to reactivate people who canceled, and you get 3 members from it, sometimes I'll talk to a gym owner and say, oh, okay, so you got 3 members from it. That's awesome. When was the last time you did it? and be like, 8 months ago. It's like, why haven't you done it? Like, why didn't you do it the next month or the month after that? It's like, oh, I didn't want to bother people, or I didn't want to overdo it. When
those are the only 3 that we're going to reactivate. I've there was only 3 out of my entire alumni list. Only those 3 were ever going to respond to that, and I've depleted it now. It's over. I can't use it again.
Or another, we see this with events. We see this with all kinds of things where people will do something. It'll go really well, like some type of internal competition. And then just wait a year to do it when it's like, hey, you struck gold. Like keep hitting at that thing. Just do it over and over and over again until it doesn't work. So just because you found something that works doesn't mean you need to go try the other 50 things. Just keep doing the thing. And the more experienced people we speak with in business, they do that thing way more than you think is like a normal amount to do it. And you're not going to burn people out. Like Mark said, they gave you their information. As long as you're providing value, they like to hear from you. It's okay to do that thing over and over and over again and ask. And if they don't like it, they'll tell you to not talk to them. And that's fine.
Yeah, it's a great reminder. Because even advanced people, I think, would often say, like, even people that overall are very good at it, it's the whole thing. It worked so well, I stopped doing it. Right. It's just a constant trap all entrepreneurs tend to get into. Just a weird thing. So, yeah, I think that is an amazing and very important distinction for people to take with them.
So, Mark, we're pushing over time. I don't want to take too much of yours because you're a time ninja. You schedule very tightly here.
So I scheduled extra time in case we, wanted to talk about extra stuff.
Well, you knew we were going to. We knew we were going to.
I can resist
this out. Get as much Mark time as we could.
Your mellifluous voices.
So where do people get this thing?
Yeah,
this
they
book?
Can go to JimMarketingSecretsBook.com. JimMarketingSecretsBook.com.
Your boy owns JimMarketing.com.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, how much will you sell for?
So maybe you put a couple of words in that forward. We can set up a forwarding link. It's much nicer domain, much easier to remember.
Listen,
we'll talk offline. I think we can. I think we can tease on the back end.
Listen, I honestly, I've sincerely been looking forward to arranging for my piece of equity ownership on Kilo and Gym Lead Machine, and I'm really excited to get this deal done.
Well, listeners, we love you. Mark loves you. Matteo loves you.
We all love you. We all love you.
And if you love us, the way you can show it is by liking and sharing this episode with a gym owner in need. It's not easy to put
That's a referral strategy right there. That's what that is. That's sharing referrals.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Yep. He not only talks about it, he walks the walk.
Get a pod, give a pod. And that's it for this week. We love you, Gym World. We will see you next week. Same time, same place. We're here for you because consistency is key. Goodbye.
I'm inspired.